Bouncers of Reddit, what are your craziest kicked out of the bar stories? I was the kicked out part, but I really want to share this, so hope you don't mind. I was at a bar with friends and got way drunk. So I did the Irish exit and I told the bouncer, I'm completely wasted right now, so I'll do your job for you and throw myself out. The bouncer told me, hey, don't you want a glass of water first? You'll feel better in the morning, trust me. So I went back in for a glass of water. Got icy cold water and lots of ice cubes. Felt super good. Then the bouncer told me, you've had enough, I'm gonna have to throw you out, and escorted me to the door. He was smiling ear to ear and I realized he just one-upped me. Ex-bouncer here. Coked out little dude comes up to the door. I decline entry because he was way too intoxicated. He starts screaming, bohemian hollering. Dealt with it before, no big deal. I turn to wave the other doorman over and this guy jumps on me. I lose my footing, knocking me down. He punched me in the chest 7 times. So I thought, my other doorman rips him off me. I stand up with my adrenaline pumping. Again. Normal. My stomach feels really warm though, and I touch it. I look at my hand and am bleeding out. Dude slashed me 7 times in the chest. Quit shortly after. Bachelorette party. You're kicking me out. I'm the least sober person in my group, and you're kicking me out. Happy birthday. Mid-December in Washington State. This kid had just turned 21 and wanted to come in after midnight. Policy did not allow this. Plus he was already pretty wasted from earlier celebrations. A cop follows him to his car. Dude drives off. Police chase him for about a mile. Abandons his car in the middle of the road, then starts running through a parking lot. Cops chase him on foot, but he gets back to his car. So what does he do? He hauls ass back to the club, where at least 4 other cops and 15 bouncers were waiting outside. Ditches his car again, and tries to get in a few others. All locked. Dude ended up with a few felony charges and a good tasering for his birthday. When I was at EJ at the bar back in the day, some drunken asshole started being a dick to the waitress, smacking her ass, making a grab for her tits, etc. The bouncer grabbed him by the back of his hair and knocked over every table with the guy's face as he dragged him toward the door. Then he used his face to hit the panic bar on the door and threw him out into the street. It was a little much, but I think that bouncer had a crush on that one waitress. I'm not a bartender, but I work at a bar. A few weeks ago a group of 4 came in, a mother, her daughter, and their boyfriends. It was the mother's birthday. She refused to be served by a woman bartender. We had 2 women bartenders that night, no others. Our bartender decided to still serve the rest of the mother's group, but the mother continued to complain about not having a drink, but still refused to let a woman make it. The daughter's boyfriend was getting really irritated at how rude she was being towards the bartenders. They got into an argument and the daughter's boyfriend punched the mom in the face and knocked off her glasses. The men went outside to talk and the girls went to patch up in the bathroom. When I told my manager what had happened, he was unsure what to do because the mother didn't want to leave, but the boyfriend obviously shouldn't come back inside. After I told my manager how rude the girl was being to the bartenders, he kindly asked them if they could go to another bar nearby. Of course she freaked out saying it was her birthday, but we weren't going to get a new staff member to serve her just because of that. The mother's boyfriend got everyone to leave eventually. Also, that same night we had a woman come in and eat a napkin in front of our hostess and then leave. Not relevant to this story, but it was a weird ass night for all of us. I worked in a club in the 90s that was open on Friday and Saturday until 4 AM. In this state, Ohio, we had to stop serving alcohol at 2 AM, and often people would try to sneak in drinks after that. I was walking through the dance floor just after we cleared all drinks and saw a kid with a beer. One of those tall boys that we didn't even sell. It looked like he just opened it, and I was in a good mood. He looked like a nervous kid who probably never bothered anyone in his life. I decided to be nice and just confiscate the beer. As soon as I opened my mouth, he tried to take off running. I reach out and grabbed his jacket and hear a thud. It takes me a moment to realize he just dropped his gun on the dance floor. He was immediately held down by about 3 of us. Cops were called and he went out in handcuffs. I worked for a while in a bar during college. I was the junior most bartender, so when we were slow I would help do security at the door. One night I'm checking IDs at the door, while our head bouncer was standing there looking intimidating. He was about 6 feet 5 inches, rail skinny but nothing but muscle. So as I'm checking people's IDs as they come in, a small guy, possibly of Middle Eastern descent, comes walking up from the parking lot. He had been 86 at the night before for being obnoxious to several women, so he was permanently banned from the bar. Randy, the head bouncer, sees this guy coming and just starts shaking his head. No. The guy walks right up to Randy and pulls out a small semi-auto pistol and sticks it right in Randy's face and says, "I'm going to kill you." Randy looks at the guy, looks at the gun, looks back at the guy, and then leans down and says very softly, "No, motherfucker, I'm going to kill you." As this is happening right in front of me, I revert to my extensive lack of training and immediately start to hyperventilate and trying not to wet myself. The dude with the gun stares up at Randy, looks at the gun in his own hand, and then takes off running back into the parking lot as fast as he can. Later on that night after the bar closed, we were cleaning up and having a few drinks, so I asked Randy what the hell was he thinking when he said that. Randy responded, "Little gun. I would have had time to break his neck before I bled out." Is that all that matters? I asked him. That's all that matters. I'm a bouncer. You can tell who's aggressive when you greet them and ask how their night is when you with them. Either they will have a positive response or just a standard response, or they are an asshole when they respond dickishly. I once had a guy come in, biggest doucher bag I've ever seen. Drove an Audi, obviously well off, very built. Asked for his ID, and he said really, and shook his head. Instantly I knew he was a cunt. Or so I thought. He got drunk, then was buying the whole bar rounds, was really happy. Dancing, being overly touchy with everyone. Not in a creepy way, just in a good time kinda way. Tried to slip my $100, I told him no, and he just said what about a hug? Of course. To this day, I have no seen someone who was an asshole sober become a good guy drunk. Ex-bouncer here. Our club security participated in some partner gig that the owner had with his buddy who owned another club. We were never introduced to his buddy. They told us to be extra tight on the front stage area security. Well, shithead comes up in there looking like he thinks he's getting past me discreetly, and I tell him he has to back it up and leave. He backs up about 1 foot length and stays watching the performers. I give him a final warning and even tell him that I'll be forced to personally escort him out. He pretends to not hear me, so I pick his ass up and begin carrying him off premises and to the entrance. Meanwhile he's screaming the name of my boss all pissy sounding. Turns out I was canning my boss's business partner from his own gig. I was pretty embarrassed, but also didn't regret anything, because I was doing my job and he basically asked for it. Later that night, about an hour and a half later and only 10 minutes after the show ended, had a seizure. They had to call the EMTs and everything. I woke up feeling awful, and that same business partner of my boss's who had been a huge asshole was crouched down speaking to me very kindly and making sure I was okay. I'll never forget that. I worked at a pretty small club. Usually 3 to 4 bouncers and me, the door guard. Whenever we had a call on the radio about a fight, we all had to respond. However, all the bouncers were giant, Michael Clark Duncan looking guys, and when the place was packed, they had some trouble getting through the crowd. I however was much slimmer than they, and would often end up being the first to arrive. Well, one time, I was the first to arrive to break up a fight by the stage. All I remember is showing up, dodging one punch, and then trying to grab a guy. That was it. Next thing I know I wake up in a hospital bed. They eventually showed me the camera footage. Right after I grabbed the guy, another picked up one of our heavy wooden seats and bashed my head with it. It was scary to watch. However, one of the bouncers and I were really good friends, and as soon as he saw me get it he plowed through that crowd like a raging rhino. I barely even touched the ground before he grabbed me, hoisted me onto his shoulder, punched the chair guy and cloths lined one other on his way to get me to safety. I probably owe him my life. Edit. Some not done. Not a bouncer, but I'm a line cook at a restaurant, and everyone who works in the industry pretty much knows everyone else in the area. So after we finish our shift, we head out to a local bar. We are pretty close to the tenders and bouncers, so we are enjoying some beers and shooting the shit when all of a sudden the biggest bouncer, Dave, a 6'3", 275 pounds refrigerator of a man, total sweetheart as well, walks by with a dude over his shoulder like a bag of potatoes. The guy in question is kicking his feet and trying to swipe Dave like a toddler being put down for a nap. So Dave sees us, greets us with a chipper, "What's up my dudes?" Takes a shot from the bar and walks outside like he wasn't carrying a thrashing sack of drunken meat. It was so surreal I had to double check how many drinks I had at that point. Another time at the same place we see one of the other bouncers taking out a screaming old dude who was way too drunk. The cops are following right behind him to make sure everything goes okay and the dude walks home. Nope. Once he's outside and realizes there is no way he's getting back in, he flips off the cops and gets in his fucking car. The second the cops see the lights turn on, they each get on a side of the car and force him out of the car to be arrested. I've shared this one before in other thread, but I never get tired of telling it. I worked as a bouncer in a strip club for a little over 3 years. I have way too many stories for one post, so I'll share the one that disturbed me the most. One night, while working the front door, I was standing in the doorway watching vehicles pull into the parking lot, because we can often spot problem people before they even exit their vehicle. People driving crazy, chugging beers before getting out, couples fighting etc etc. This night was the only time I ever saw a hearse pull in. The driver makes his way inside and proceeds to get sloppy drunk and gets cut off from the bar. Then he starts trying to leave, like in a hurry. At this point, all we are thinking about is getting him to stay and sober up before he gets behind the wheel again. My coworkers and I tried everything we could think of to convince him to stay. Hey man, stay and have another table dance, stay and enjoy some free coffee, some free food, whatever. We leave and call a cab for you. Nope. He just keeps heading for the door repeating over and over, "Nap man. You don't understand. I gotta go." We follow him out to the parking lot, still trying to change his mind when one of the other bouncers realized we are following him to a hearse. He yells, "Do not tell me you've got a fucking body in there, man." The driver then says, "Yeah, that's why I keep telling you I have to go. Look, I'll show you." As we all stand there, utterly fucking speechless, he swings the rear door open and raises the lid of the coffin. Inside, we see a nice looking older gent who is obviously on his way to his own funeral. See, this is why I gotta go. If my boss finds out I did this again, I'll get fired. This is the part where I like to stress that yes, he said again. TL, Doctor, alcoholic hearse driver gives poor dead stiff one final trip to the titty bar.